Play different.
Greetings fellow Mac addicts. In this video we're looking at Dream Wars, a chaotic and surreal arcade game from Monkey Farm Software. In it, you play as Phil, a young boy trapped in Dreamland. The story itself is incredibly nonsensical, including Phil getting followed by a Microsoft branded plastic dog, but plot isn't exactly relevant here. The aim is to battle through 4 stages plus one unlockable one. The primary 4 stages are made up of 9 waves, the goal of each being to get 1000 points, which will throw you into the next wave, or eventually a boss. At the centre of each level is a pipe which the enemies are launched out of. The variety of enemies is pretty impressive, as not only do they look different, many behave very differently too. There are penguins, frogs, robots, vampires, Frankensteins, UFOs that drop little green men, killer Christmas trees, black belt bears, demons, land sharks, whales, hippies, and so on and so forth. And while many waves simply splurt the enemies out at you, there are also a few special levels that act differently. For example, when you fight Frankenstein's monster, you will lose points if you kill the villagers around him. Another level has turrets which can only be destroyed after you ride bubbles to the top of the screen to deactivate them. Another level will have you hopping around on floating coffins to avoid the flaming ground as demons attack you. Another level has low gravity, and again, so on and so forth. To defend yourself, Phil has bombs by default. These are pretty cumbersome to use as they're hard to aim precisely and the explosions will hurt you too. Fortunately, you can grab crates which will give you a random weapon including a chainsaw, an Uzi, sticky bombs, killer bunnies, and sometimes you'll even turn into Godzilla, allowing you to just stomp right through enemies. I'm a big fan of that one. Here's a quick tip from the manual which I advise reading. If you walk against the side of the screen for a second and jump, you'll launch up into the air, and jumping again will allow you to fly right across the screen. Mastering this is pretty vital if you want to survive certain waves. Now this all really sounds up my alley, a silly, chaotic arcade game full of personality. Unfortunately, it has some serious problems stopping me from recommending it wholeheartedly. First of all, there is a lack of communication to the player. It's often unclear when you have been hit, which power-up you've picked up, when your power-up has run out, and when enemies have been hurt or killed. In a game as chaotic as this, as much information needs to be given to the player as possible, as it's far too easy to get lost in the mayhem. It's also far too easy to lose a bunch of health because you don't realise something is actively hurting you, and damaging yourself with your own weapons is all too common. The game also feels too random, in that sometimes it felt like I only managed to get as far as I did because I happened to have the right weapon at the right time, and the wave spawned the right enemies at the right time. The soundscape is also extremely loud and obnoxious. For these reasons, I can see a lot of people finding the game frustrating and not fun to play. I still had a lot of fun with the game and it's playable and possible to beat, but it can feel unfair at times. While it's a game I can admire, I wouldn't exactly call it a good game. But if it looks intriguing to you, I definitely recommend checking it out, especially since it has now been released as freeware. John Butler, the then teen behind Monkey Farm Software, said he liked making chaotic games because he enjoys things being different every time a game is played, especially since he was testing this particular game himself 20 to 50 times a day. He admits it was a challenge getting the difficulty feeling right, as he would crank it up for himself, then worry it would be too hard for first time players, which indeed can be a problem with Dream Wars. As for the origin of the game, Butler really liked building game engines and would usually build them first and then think up a game for them afterwards. He loved to give himself a technical challenge and try to solve it, and then turn that experiment into a game. In the case of Dream Wars, he wanted lots of sprites on the screen which would explain the chaotic nature of the final product. And that is Dream Wars from Monkey Farm Software. Thank you for watching.